students, welcome back to yet another session of English. Today's class is for class 10. So we meet after a long time. Therefore, let's spend some time together. And today's lesson is a very, very interesting lesson. It is a kind of story like, The name of the lesson is Glimpses of India. That is the title of the lesson, and there is a subtitle in the lesson which goes by the name A Baker from Goa. So the name of the lesson is Glimpses of India, and the subtitle is A Baker from Goa. Actually, there are three parts in this lesson. One is about Goa, the other one is about Coorg, and the last one is about Assam. So the lesson is actually made into three parts. So we are going to learn about three interesting places in this lesson. One is Goa, the other one is Coorg, which is in Karnataka, a beautiful hill station, and then finally Assam, the house of tea. So before we get into this particular part of the lesson, that is a baker from Goa, we must have some background information. If you have some background information, I think that will help you to understand this lesson in a better way. So what exactly is Goa? The moment we speak about Goa, all that comes to our mind is the beautiful beaches, beautiful seas, lots of colonial buildings built by the Portuguese, the churches, and the carnival that goes on in the month of December, and different kinds of dishes, Portuguese dishes, or the Portuguese cuisine. This is what is actually Goa is made of. That is what we think. But Goa is not just that. It is much more than that. To understand Goa, we need to go back. We need to go back to the 14th century. Actually, if you study history in a detailed manner, you will come to understand that India was colonized by many powers. There were lots of colonial powers. And many nations came to India for the purpose of trade, because India was a trading hub right from the 14th century. You see, before the Portuguese, the Mughals had been ruling India. And once the Mughal period was over, the English began to occupy. They began to come to India. But before the arrival of the English, the Portuguese had come there. So Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese navigator, reached a place called Calicut in Kerala in the year 1498, and the month was May. So he landed up in Calicut in 1498, in the month of May. So from there starts the Portuguese connections with India. So Vasco da Gama landed in Portuguese, and he came to understand that India was a busy trading center. And especially when he saw Kerala, he came to understand that Kerala was a spice paradise. Even if you go to Kerala today, you will find Kerala producing good quality spices such as cardamom, cloves, cinnamon, vanilla, and several other spices, even coffee. So Kerala, being known for the spices, attracted people of different nations of the world. And the Portuguese were very much attracted to this, and they wanted to build up their trade in India. So with the arrival of Vasco da Gama, an avenue for trade opened, and the Portuguese slowly came to occupy certain places in India, and the most important place that they occupied was Goa. So Goa became their base. It became a base for the Portuguese, and therefore they put up several buildings, they constructed a lot of churches, they had all their business transactions done from this particular place, that is Goa, and therefore Goa became a colony of the Portuguese. So after the Portuguese, came the Dutch, then the English, followed by the French and the Danes. The Danes were the last ones to arrive in India. Now, we are not going to discuss about history. We are not going to discuss history, but we will just take this particular aspect, that is the Portuguese influence on India. You see, the English came to India, but they left English with us. You understand the meaning, I believe? The English came to India, but they left English with us. So, when the British left India, they left the language, that is English, with us, and also a bit of the British culture. It was the same with the Portuguese. The Portuguese arrived in India, but when they left India, they left a bit of their culture here in India. And if you go to Goa, you can see the Portuguese influence in the Indian culture. You can see the impact that they had made in the lives of Indians. So, Goa became the center for the Portuguese. It became a center of trade, and it also was a base from where they planned their political expansion. So, the Portuguese, they affected the culture of Indians, they affected the religion of Indians, and they also affected the political life or the political status. So how did they affect the political status? When the Portuguese arrived, there were many Indians, okay? They were ruled by the Muslims, and the Portuguese began to dominate the locals. They fought many battles with the Muslims, and as a result, the Portuguese rule was established in India. And many Hindus, they became Christians because the Portuguese, they affected the cultural part of India. You see, the British came to India to do business with us. They were not bothered about the lives of Indians. They did not interfere with the cultural aspect of the Indians. But the Portuguese, they came for the same purpose of trade, but along with trade, they also began to influence the lives. They influenced their culture, they imposed their culture on Indians. They imposed the religion, many became Christians, and also they imposed the they affected or they influenced the political status. They began to gain political power by subduing the rulers, the local rulers, and finally Goa became a center of Portuguese rule in India. And in the year 1962, the Indian army attacked Goa, which was dominated by the Portuguese, and finally Goa gained its independence in the year 1962. So much for the historical background of Goa. Now, if you make a visit to Goa, many tourists, they pay a visit to Goa. Goa is a tourist destination, one of the major tourist attractions of India. They would get a chance, the visitors, the tourists would get a chance to understand the kind of influence that the Portuguese had on the Indians by looking at the colonial buildings, Portuguese buildings, by relishing the Portuguese cuisine. If you go to Goa, even today, you will find Portuguese dishes being served in restaurants and even in homes. So we'll come to that part later. But when the Portuguese came to Goa, they set up their capital in Old Goa. That was known as the former capital of Goa. So many people used to say that if you visit Old Goa, you don't have to visit Lisbon, which is the capital of Portugal today. So it was a mini Lisbon, a small Lisbon in India, because everything that you found in this Old Goa was very, very closely associated with the Portuguese and their culture. The buildings, they were built up in the Portuguese style. The food that was served in houses and the social ceremonies, during the social ceremonies, it was very much of the Portuguese cuisine, and the dresses that people wore at that time were mainly of the Portuguese attire. So they imitated Portuguese in every way, and therefore Old Goa was known as a small or a mini Lisbon in India. So if you go to Old Goa, you don't have to go to have a look at Lisbon, which is the capital of Portugal. Now, after some years, for certain political reasons, the capital was changed or shifted from Old Goa to Panjim. This is also known by the name Panaji. So, Panjim is actually the present capital of Goa, and this had remained the capital for several years, even during the time of Portuguese rule in India. Right. Now, Lacio Rodriguez, he is a writer, and he gives us a beautiful description about the influence of the Portuguese in Indian lives. How did the Portuguese influence the lives of Indians? That exactly is this lesson all about. Now, the writer speaks about the different cultural aspects or the influence of the Portuguese culture on the Indians. And he takes one particular example, that is the baker of Goa. So when the Portuguese were there, when they were ruling India, as I told you, the cuisine was mainly of Portuguese. The dishes which were served during ceremonies, okay, like the marriage ceremony, housewarming ceremony, and even the festivals like Christmas, Easter, you had all the Portuguese dishes being served, the major Portuguese dishes being served at the social gatherings, during festivals, and during other ceremonies as well. So, the baker, one who baked bread, played a very, very important role in the daily lives of the Indians who lived during the Portuguese times. Why? Because the baker was related to the daily bread of the people. You see, India is a country which has a multi-cuisine culture. There are different kinds of delicacies in different parts of India, and every region in India is associated with some kind of delicacy, some kind of special dish or some kind of sweets, particularly known or not particularly to that particular area. So, when the Portuguese ruled India, the bakers were found in every nook and cranny of that region. So the day started with the arrival of the baker. That is what the writer is discussing. So what was the role played by the baker in the daily life of the ordinary people? He discusses his role in detail, and he also discusses the financial condition of the baker. He lived a very prosperous life, and he also affected the culture of the people who lived in Goa at that time, because no house would be complete without the contribution of a baker. Because starting from morning till evening, the baker kept distributing breads. Whenever there was a function, a social gathering, or an important function in a family, or an important festival, the baker was always there to serve different kinds of breads. So what kind of bread did these bakers serve? There were many varieties, and we will be discussing these points, these details in our next class. But for the time being, you just keep these few points in mind. You see, India was a colonial power. If you ask your history teacher, he or she will be able to explain it in detail. So, the Portuguese were the first to arrive in India, followed by the Dutch, then the English, then the French, and finally the Danes, or the people from Denmark. They all came with one purpose, that is to carry on business with India. That is to maintain a trade relationship, right? And the English, of course, they were the major colonial power. Now the Portuguese landed up With the arrival of Vasco da Gama in the year 1498 May, the Portuguese made an entry into India. And after reaching the shores of India, they found India to be a very, very rich country, a country that is rich in several resources and spices. Because Vasco da Gama landed in Calicut, and Calicut, of course, is in Kerala. Kerala, as we all know, as all of us know, was known for the rich spice trade. Even today, it's known as the land of spices. So the Portuguese their focus was on the spice trade. So the Portuguese, they exerted their influence after the arrival of Vasco da Gama, and slowly Goa became their base. And from Goa, they started operating their trade, or they started having business transactions. And after that, they influenced the lives of the people who lived there. And therefore, many people, 95% of them, so to say, adopted the Portuguese culture. So they were taken up by the way of the Portuguese dresses, the dresses of Portuguese, and the cuisine of Portuguese, and many were converted into Christianity. So that is a different kind of, subject. I don't want to kind of take time into explaining that, but just put it at the back of your mind. Goa was the center of the Portuguese influence. It was the base for the Portuguese, from where they expanded politically and economically. Alright, the former capital of Goa is Old Goa, and after some years the Portuguese, they shifted their capital to Panjim. The present name is also Panjim. It's also known by the name Panaji. Right, so just a kind of overall view of Goa, a glimpse of Goa. So when you think of Goa, the first thing that comes to your mind is beaches, and then it's not just beaches and resorts, but it's also a place to remind us of the Portuguese influence in India. When you look at the colonial buildings, the churches, when you participate in the carnivals, you can understand that the Portuguese had exerted their influence on the Indian culture. So even if you have a chance of going to restaurants or even joining a family for a meal, you will definitely find the Portuguese cuisine being served there. And even today, marriages in Goa, the Christian marriages, are very much done in the Portuguese style. So these are the points that you need to keep in mind. The influence of the Portuguese on the lives of Goans. Three major areas. Their culture was affected. The Indian culture was affected by the Portuguese. Their religion. The Portuguese actually wanted to kind of impose or convert the Hindus into Christians. So the conversion part, and then finally the political status. The Portuguese had a great influence on the political status of this particular place known by the name Goa. So tomorrow in the next class we will have a detailed discussion of a Goan baker, the influence that he had on the social life of the Goans. The role that he played, the contribution that he made to change the lives of the Indians who lived in Goa. So I think we'll wind up this class with these points. Just keep these points, put them at the back of your head, and keep revising the lesson. Just take this lesson, Glimpses of an India, and you will find a section, a baker from Goa. Just read that kind of lesson. Go through that lesson, you will have some idea, and with the detailed discussion in the next class, we'll definitely be able to get deeper and you will have a better understanding. Till then, stay safe at home and have